Good morning, everyone. I want to start by giving a huge thank you to our entire government structure work group and our chairs who are here with us, Kathleen O'Brien and J.J. Haywood. They have done an incredible amount of work over these last couple of months to provide what is an extensive report and gives us some options as to how we can proceed with our new government structure. So on November 2nd, the voters made a clear choice to move ahead in making our government structure in Minneapolis more efficient and more responsive to the people of Minneapolis. This is a gigantic shift and represents what could be some of the most important decisions that we ever make in our government life. The changes that we make, the decisions that we're making today and tomorrow and over these next several months will have long-lasting impacts, and this is indeed once in a many-generational opportunity to really get this right. I'm a believer that this form of government can really provide the necessary efficiencies and responsiveness and accountability that people in our city have long asked for. This is a really great step forward, but I'm just so pleased to be working with these incredible individuals here who have helped to inform me going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our co-chair, Kathleen O'Brien, who can give a rundown as to what this report, which you should all have in your hands, says.
Thank you, Mayor Frey. Good morning, everybody. As the mayor said, I'm Kathleen O'Brien, and for our reporters here, that's K-A-T-H-L-E-E-N, capital O apostrophe, capital B-R-I-E-N. And I'm pleased to be with you today. Clearly, in our November election, the people of Minneapolis voted for change. Change to strengthen our city's government, change to make our city just, safe, and well-managed. Even though we voted for different strategies, we believe we share a goal. A government that works for everyone. Our report today is a first step to implementing that goal for the people of Minneapolis. Mayor Frey convened and charged the Government Structure Transition Work Group to recommend the components necessary to establish the Executive Mayor Legislative Council structure. He asked us to recommend an operating structure, provide options to implement best practice systems and effective relationships between the mayor and city council under the executive mayor and legislative council structure, and provide options for the executive mayor to support the city council in its legislative policymaking and oversight roles so they could work together as responsive and collaborative partners for all the people of Minneapolis. The mayor made it clear to the work group that we were to think long-term and envision how Minneapolis city government would work into the future for the next 100 years. This was not about him, but about the future of our city and its potential. Mayor Frey requested recommendations that would provide clarity to roles and responsibilities, would be durable to serve the long-term needs of the city, would establish accountability, define who does what for the people of Minneapolis, achieve an efficient and effective city government that was responsive to citizens' needs and be transparent and accessible. For this work group, the mayor convened community leaders with extensive experience and expertise in city governments. And I have to say that these were people from across the city who ranged in age. Being totally honest, I think I was the oldest person in the work group, but there were many people younger than me, and people that represented various constituencies. They came as people with executive experience from city government, from state government, from St. Paul, and also in the private and public sector, nonprofit sector. So really a tremendous cross-section in our dozen work group members. The entire work group was really engaged and collaborative. This report is truly a group product. As co-chairs, we are grateful for the commitment and effort of each member and the fact that we work together so well. And now you can hear from my co-chair, who also was a collaborative leader, J.J. Haywood.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Mayor Frey. My name is J.J. Haywood, just J.J. Haywood, Haywood. What was our work group plan? Well, over December and January, the work group met 7 times for 3 hours each. Together, we thoroughly examined and debated information and options. We studied the Charter Commission's research and recommendations. We researched and interviewed leaders from other cities and shared best practices from our own experiences. This work helped us define this template and arrive at consensus recommendations. The essential components of our recommendations are an operating structure that includes both professional expertise and experience to ensure proficient day-to-day city operations and provide the essential support to the executive mayor in those intrinsic functions that can only be performed by the mayor, inclusive decision-making, policy development, and constituent engagement. We recommend 2 options to achieve this operating structure: a Chief of Operations Officer and Mayor's Chief of Staff model, or multiple reports to the mayor. Details about these are included in our report. The work group considered and ruled out other options, such as a city manager, deputy mayor, or having all of the department heads report to the mayor. These options were either inconsistent with the charter amendment or not viable due to the size of the city and the scope of the executive mayor's roles and responsibilities. The work group reinforced that the executive mayor and legislative structure establishes a balanced form of government that assigns essential roles and responsibilities to the mayor and to the city council. This means that there must be a constructive relationship that is respectful and collaborative and serves the people of Minneapolis. We recommend that as the executive mayor, that the mayor fulfill the mandate of the charter and ensure that the city council has the support and resources to perform its duties and responsibilities. Beyond our charge, the work group provided an implementation plan that advises the best practices, including a defined roles and responsibilities process, operational alignment that includes standard operating procedures such as annual operating plans, key performance indicators, and regular review of progress and rigorous human resources practices. What should we expect as the executive mayor legislative council structure is implemented? We should expect this will take time. Minneapolis has operated with a decentralized, complicated structure with no defined executive for over 100 years. Our government was an outlier like no other. We learned from San Diego that it took more than 2 years to move from a city manager form to an executive mayor form of governance. To achieve the foundational principles laid out by the mayor, clarity, durability, accountability, efficiency, effectiveness, a responsive, transparent, and accessible city government, culture change is needed. A consistent shared vision by the mayor and the city council, alignment across city departments and throughout the enterprise. It means changing expectations and daily operations. To achieve this type of change, it takes a commitment by everyone in city government and in our city. It will take perseverance and time. So what? How will the mayor legislative council structure address the inequities and needs of the people of Minneapolis. To serve everyone, Minneapolis needs a city government that works, with a mayor who is responsible for the direction of the city's future and assembling department heads to provide city services, and a council that is responsible for defining city services through legislation and ensuring consistent quality through its audit oversight. We believe our recommendations will address our needs. Our city will have a government with a professional and policy leadership responsible to provide city services equitably, efficiently, and effectively. Our suggested structures will help support a balanced form of government with defined responsibilities and accountabilities. As a business owner and a city resident, I am excited for the changes that will lead to improved collaboration and planning across city departments, making it easier for us to interact with the city and improving the quality, consistency, and equity of the key services we all need and use. We are excited for a new city structure that provides the opportunity for the people to have a responsive and transparent city government that can address inequities, fulfill the needs and aspirations of its people, and restore their trust. Thank you. Mayor Frey.
Well, thank you so much, Kathleen and JJ, for all of your work in providing this extensive and really excellent report. I also want to note that we're joined by a couple of other members of the committee, and Jake Kudrowski as well as Kim Nelson. Really appreciate your presence here as well. And with that, we'll open it up to any questions that you might have. Yeah, it's a good question. The answer is we're going to be diving in over the next several weeks to provide a recommendation, which could be one of those two options. It could be a slight variation of one of those two as well. The work group explored a number of different government structures. As they mentioned, they looked at a city manager form of government and found that that was ruled out simply by the vote that took place on November 2nd, which called for a clear executive in the mayor and a clear legislative body in the council. They also ruled out a deputy mayor form of government, which they mentioned could be seen more as a political appointee as opposed to an administrator for the city. And something that I insisted on and will continue to insist on is the thing that we set up right now needs to be long-lasting. This is a form of government that we want people to, that we want to provide and deliver trust through. And obviously, we have a lot of work to do. And so we're going to be really digging in over these next several weeks to provide a clear recommendation to the council, which we will ultimately be able to give them, we anticipate, on March 22nd. So on March 22nd, I'll come forward, provide our recommendations to the council, and we want to work collaboratively with them. I'll tell you, this should be an opportunity for unity. This should be an opportunity for us all to work together to set up the most effective and responsive government that we can.
Mayor, obviously there's a lot to unpack here, but is there a key takeaway for voters who approved this?
The key takeaway is that this is an opportunity to do things differently. This is an opportunity to provide efficacy and responsiveness. Now, is there one specific policy that we can now pass that was previously impossible? No, there's not. I mean, this is about everything from picking up the recycling to plowing the streets. This is about everything from economic inclusivity to affordable housing. This is all-encompassing, and what it allows for is for an executive in the mayor to provide clear direction to department heads on a day-to-day basis. The legislative authority does now and will continue to reside with the council, as it should. The council is a deliberative body. They think through how to pass laws. They do constituent services. They do outreach. And absolutely, that will continue to be the case. But what this new structure allows for is to have a clear line of both accountability as well as direction, which was previously lacking in a major way. This gives the mayor, the office of mayor, which importantly is not just me. You know, we want this to be set up many mayors into the future, many councils into the future. What it gives them the ability to do is to call a cabinet of department heads into their office and to provide direction. Sometimes that direction can take place on an emergency basis. Sometimes it's longer planning ahead. But regardless, it gives our city a direction which was previously lacking.
Ms. O'Brien talked about this kind of opening the door for creating a safer city, or can you provide any more detail on how this fits into efforts to improve public safety?
Liz, I can. Is that a question for me or Ms. O'Brien? Okay. I'll start off, and then you can jump in. So as I've long said, I favor an integrated system of public safety that brings a number of different community assets and safety assets together to provide the best possible safety plan. Now, what exactly that looks like and what reporting structure that takes is what we're going to be digging into over the next several weeks. What I can tell you, though, is it won't look like what question 2 proposed, which was the 14 boss structure. This will have a more clear line of accountability and direction.
Some of the council members prior to the vote said they worried about whose staff would report to or which resources could be used by the council versus the mayor's office. They envisioned these scenarios where they would ask the staff to do something, and staff would say, sorry, you have to go through the mayor to have us do that, or we're working with the mayor already. Is some of that's, and I apologize, I haven't had a chance to read the whole report, but is some of that laid out in the report or the flow charts in terms of who answers to whom?
Well, a lot of that is laid out in the report, but more importantly, that was all determined as part of the November 2nd election. So the November 2nd election made the determination to move towards an executive mayor form of government with a legislative council, which means that the council passes laws, they deliberate. However, the mayor is in charge of the day-to-day functions and the operations of the city. So in that respect, all of those determinations have been made regardless of which structure of government we choose here going forward. This is more about, one, how many people report to the mayor, who reports to the mayor, and then what structure do those reports take.
And does the council vote on the final option here then?
So what'll happen is we will, thoroughly review this extensive report over the next several weeks. On March 22nd, I'm going to come forward with a recommendation as to the structure of government that I think will best serve the office of mayor and the city as a whole. And the council will ultimately take a vote on that. Now, I want to bring up Casey Carl here, who has done an extensive amount of work on this and really understands the different machinations as to how this could ultimately function, and whether it's an ordinance or a charter change that is necessary. He can probably give you the full rundown here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll restate the question as I understood it and then try and provide an answer, and that is what role the council has in terms of the mayor's proposal for a reorganization plan of the executive branch of city government. Under the form of government that was adopted by voters last November, as the mayor indicated, the mayor is the chief executive officer and is responsible for managing the operations across the city's enterprise. The council, as the legislative body, is responsible through ordinance, and it says this in the charter, for determining the structure of the city. So the mayor will be bringing forward a proposal on how to structure the executive branch, if you will, of the government. It's ultimately a decision for the mayor and the council together to decide how that structure will be implemented and then managed under the mayor's direct day-to-day authority. So on March 22nd, when the mayor brings forward his proposal, that will officially begin the process of the mayor and the council through the normal legislative process working together to collaborate on how to structure the executive branch that then will be under the mayor's authority to operate day-to-day. So I hope that answered that question.
Does the city clerk's office operate as its own charter authority then? You're not like part of the executive or legislative branch?
So under the amendment that was approved by voters, the city clerk continues, as the city clerk has always throughout the history of the city, reporting directly to the council. The clerk is the clerk of council, and so the clerk will continue to report to the city council. The amendment also elevated and created the position of city auditor, another direct report of the council. And so between the city clerk and the city auditor, those are the staff resources, the professional, nonpartisan professional resources for the city council in performing its legislative, its policymaking and oversight responsibilities. And so those two positions will be part of the legislative branch under the city council.
So I'll start off, and then I'll pass it off to Ms. O'Brien in a second here. So the way these government structure, in fact, the way all of these task forces were set up is that we picked individuals that had a wealth of experience and knowledge and background in these respective areas, and then they then made the decisions. They made the rules about how their group was going to meet. They decided how their recommendations would come forward. And I did not sit as part of this work group, nor did council members. Now, over the next several weeks, and in fact, we already have begun engaging council members around possible government structures. And I believe strongly that this is a really good moment for unity. This should not be a controversial decision. This is a decision about how to effectively and responsively set up a city government. It's not partisan, it's not ideological, it's just good governments that I believe will probably result in the most important decisions that I or this city ever make. This city government. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm just looking at the flow chart that you guys handed out, and the two options that this ultimate boils down to. Can you give us kind of a good synopsis of both options so people understand the two that you're really considering here?
Sure. I will. I'll start off, and then you can jump in. Or either way works. They're the true experts back here, just to be clear. So there were four plus government structures that were initially considered, and they provided in the packet that you have two government structures as options. The four that were considered was the city manager, which was ruled out. Second was the deputy mayor, which was also ruled out because, again, we wanted to have people that weren't necessarily the mayor's person or a political appointment, but more of the city's individual. The third option, which is present there, is the COO or the CAO system, the Chief Administrative Officer or Chief Operator system, which you have a similar style in Duluth. That would be one example, where you have an administrative officer that oversees day-to-day functions. You have a chief of staff, which, of course, runs the mayor's office. And then the third option, or fourth option, I should say, that you have there is a form of government with multiple administrators. You will have a chief of staff, you could have an administrator overseeing internal affairs, and then you will have a undetermined number of other administrators that would oversee the rest of the government in some form. And you see that referenced as to be determined because that's something that we're still working through. Do you have anything else? Let me add, yeah, let's hear from the experts on this one.
Thanks, Mayor. I think the really core recommendation is to put in place good government for the city of Minneapolis, a city of the scale and scope, responsibilities not only in our city, but as the economic engine and center of city government in the state of Minnesota. We need a city government that has both professional operational leadership and strong policy leadership with very clear communications with various constituencies. The city operations officer and the chief of staff model and the model that might include additional department heads include embedded as its core is that balance of a strong professional operations expertise and the policy and constituent relationship expertise. And that's why we came down to that core. And that's really based on our discussions with many cities, with the work group's self-experience, but also our study of what are best practices and what works.
Have you been able to determine possible costs for these different models?
No, we haven't had a cost out of the different approaches that could move forward. What I can tell you is it's not going to be major nor significant. Obviously, the two proposals that have been pushed forward would have a couple of additional hires or several additional hires, but it's nothing that would be exorbitant.
I also would say we have to recognize that having 14 bosses and having decisions take a long time and be delayed has been costly. The city of Minneapolis has been served by excellent public service, and to the extent that we have succeeded as a city, it's because of the dedication and hard work. But our structure has held us back, and it has been costly and inefficient. And this is about putting in place a government that helps the city fulfill its potential and serve all of its people.
One quick follow-up, just with that second option, going from 14 bosses to, several administrators, is there a risk of falling into the same trap of having too many cooks in the kitchen?
No, so under the old structure, there were essentially 14 bosses that the department heads had to report to. In this case, there are a series of administrators, say 2, 3, or 4 administrators, that would all report directly to the mayor. So, no, it's exactly the opposite form of system.
And the COO and COS, those would be mayoral appointments? Would they be then ratified by the council or just?
That is correct. So the top administrators, and a lot of this is still to be determined by the city council, and we're going to be working collaboratively with them. These are individuals that will be appointed by the mayor and then confirmed by the council.
And this might be a question even for Casey. I know the recommendations are coming out March 22nd. Do you know what council committees this goes through? Or do you know that process?
So the city council has organized itself with a group of standing committees, as it always does. One of the subcommittees they have is the Government Structure Subcommittee, which is a group organized under the oversight of its standing committee of the whole. That subcommittee was specifically organized to receive reports from the mayor on this topic. And so from a perspective of the public tracing and following this work, the ability to follow the government structure subcommittee allows all of this work to flow through that one body. Key decisions about structure, operations, and things like that may be referred from that committee to other standing committees, but we'll always start with that government structure subcommittee so that we can provide one place where the media, the public can follow these issues as they're brought forward from the mayor and from council members related to the change in government structure and day-to-day operations. So follow the government structure subcommittee at the council level. That's the meeting that's on March 22.
In the 14 bosses subject area, what did the individual council members have actually power to do things without the rest of the council? Did they make things happen like the aldermen in Chicago, or did they still have to go through a legislative vote to make anything happen in the old model?
The old model was confusing, it was complicated, and it led to a major lack of clarity among both elected officials and department heads. From a technical standpoint, a lot of these decisions or day-to-day operations would flow through the executive committee. From a practical standpoint, you had council members providing direction on a day-to-day basis. You had mayors that were attempting to bring people together to chart a course, and it was at times difficult. There's the technical reality and the practical reality, and the practical reality is that for about 100 years, it was exceedingly confusing, and we in Minneapolis had a government structure unlike none other in the country. So this makes a really necessary change, and as I said, this will be among the most important things that I and the individuals up here with me ever do in this government. Thanks, everyone. A big thank you to our Government Structure Committee. This is an excellent report that we're going to be diving into over the next couple weeks. Appreciate your time.
You know, Mayor, good job. I also want to say that all of our work group members are here for you and have expressed as going forward, anytime you want to call on us, we're there.
So much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jay, thank you so much. Yeah, really appreciate it.